It's an honor to announce our last speaker for today, Martin Warnke. He's Professor Emeritus of Art History at the University of Hamburg.
Yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1957, Carl Georg Heyse, who after the war was the director of the Hamburger Kunsthalle, wrote his memories of Aby Warburg. As Heyse has come to the peculiar opinion that, quoting, the person of Warburg was more than his opinions and achievements, we can take from this work of Heyse the most personal information about Warburg before and after Kreuzlingen. In these memories, we read, gifts from Warburg were very rare. From his estate, he had bequeathed to me something modest but very suggestive, a bronze snail, which served him as a, no, it's not possible. So, a bronze snail, which served him as a paperweight and touched his hand every day, so Heyse, over the decades. Awe and reverence have made it impossible for me to use it in a similar way as a paperweight, but I confess that it is one of the few things that I urgently wish to rescue from the impending chaos written 45-46. I want to report about this rescue. As we opened the Warburg House in Hamburg in 1995, the director of the copperplate department in the Kunsthalle, Dr. Eckhard Schaar, came up to me and said, Martin, you have now the house, but I have the snail. I spontaneously answered, but Mr. Schaar, you should realize that the snail should belong to the house. He said nothing about this. In 2012, Eckhard Schaar died in Hamburg, but the hope that he might have bequeathed the snail to the Warburg House was deceptive. We did not hear about the snail again. But a few months later, after Schaar's death, an elderly lady reported to the Warburg House and wished to speak to me. In her trembling hand, there was a small package, and she said in an upset voice, this is the snail that my brother had and which he had bequeathed to the Warburg House in his will. But I must confess that I could not force myself to bring the snail here, because over the course of my life, I had again and again held this snail in my hand. It had grown on me, so to speak, and I could not give it away. But the last week, my brother appeared to me in a dream and almost screamed at me, you still have the snail, but you know from my will that I wanted it to be brought to the Warburg House after my death. This dream shocked me to the core, so that I came here just today to deliver to you the snail. Ladies and gentlemen, on the back of the object, Heise had noted Aby Warburg Snail, modern Italian work for Eckhard Schaar, meaning that the snail was bequeathed to Eckhard Schaar. Heise would certainly have agreed that the snail would finally come into the restored Warburg house. On the piece of paper that Heise had attached to the snail, it says that the snail is an Italian work. But in his memories, Heise writes that Warburg himself had told him that it is the work of a Florentine female friend. According to my knowledge, there is only one female friend of Warburg in Florence who was a sculptor, his own wife, Mary. I cannot exclude that Warburg had hinted toward the young Heise in sort of an old boy's manner that a girlfriend in Florence had created the snail for him. My attribution could explain the intimate character of something that we call in German a Handschmeichler, something that you touch repeatedly and roll in your palm, comparable to a stone egg. This would be different and more than a simple weight that helped to fix the many papers in Warburg's desk. Of course, it seems natural to ask for a deeper meaning of the snail. The snail is common in every book of emblems and is usually presented in the sense of omnia mea mecum porto, such as in the Emblemas Morales by Covarrubias Orozco from the 1610. But please allow me to provide a very free and unsecured interpretation. The main impression that Warburg Snail makes on us is its intense and willful movement with which it unwinds from its rigid shell. The snail, as it behaves here, could tell us, you in Hamburg have your Warburg house, and you in London also have your house with a wonderful library. The snail winds itself out of her house in a curious, or in a movement, and demonstrates that as researchers, we also sometimes should stretch out our feelers out of our houses and notice something of the circumstances, of the hardships and needs of the world around us, also in the history and in the present. Together with the invaluable curator of the Warburg Foundation, Mr. Hartmut Halfmeyer, we agreed that both houses should possess a copy of this snail. There was also the idea that the original could be exchanged every year at a formal meeting of the directors, David Friedberg and Uwe Fleckner, but a technical problem has led us to a different solution. In Heise's writings, it is said that the snail is made of bronze. However, the snail given to us by the sister of Eckhard Schaar is, as Mr. Halfmeyer has found out with the help of experts, made of brass. Therefore, we have made a snail of bronze for you in London, while the Warburg Foundation in Hamburg will keep the brass specimen. This way, it can unfold its meaning in an equally authentic manner, both here in London and there in Hamburg. Thank you. And so, please take the snail for you.
That's the gift from the Warburg Foundation to the Warburg Institute in London. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much.
We in London could not be more moved than receiving this gift from you in Hamburg. I hope that the fact that we have a brazen snail rather than a brass snail does not turn us into idolaters, but in fact, I think this afternoon's talks have shown us to be sufficiently idolatrous. I'm most grateful to you, Martin, not only for this present, also to the Warburg Foundation, for this present to the sister institution, not only for preventing Uwe and I having yet another fight about Aby Warburg, because we each have our own snail now. But I'm very grateful to Martin Warnke for his presence. We first met in 1970 when we were talking about Bildersturm, in those days just after 1968, of course. And when we were not so tentatively coming out of our shells, I think we have learned to realize how fragile the houses that we carry along with us are. And I'm very grateful to Martin after this long time, despite difficulties, for having come to London and giving us such a wonderful present. Thank you so much.